Hello adventurers, and welcome back to my channel. Now today I'm super excited because I'm giving you guys an update on some progress that you've been asking for a little bit. Now you've been following me for a while as I've been traveling in my 2020 NV200, but recently my parents picked up a Dodge Ram Sprinter, and today we're going to be talking about all the things that have been going into that to bring it to the stage that it currently is in. Now sharing this journey with you guys has been super fun because as much as I enjoy my van and have everything put into certain places, it's kind of a small van, so some of the things that you guys might be interested in putting into your vans might not make sense in my van. So by having this larger canvas to fill, I'm getting to see a lot of projects that get me to thinking a little bit. My initial goal was to get my dad to record all of his footage and put together a YouTube channel, but he's not quite ready to start doing that, and I think he would prefer to actually just share his adventures. So what I am going to do is give you guys an update as to all the different projects that he has been working on to make it ready for he and my mom to travel. So in today's video I will be sharing all of the footage that he's been capturing on the different projects that he's been working on and kind of telling you what he has going on behind the scenes, getting this ready for their big departure sometime in the near future. It's super exciting because when I go in there it's like, oh my gosh, there's so much room in here, because my van is very short and theirs is very, very tall. So without further ado, let me show you some of the work that he has been putting into this. Dad started off by grinding down the rivets around the bulkhead, and that took a little bit of time, but he was using this grinder that made the work a little bit safer and easier. Then he went ahead and used a hammer and also a flathead and went ahead and popped those rivets so that he could remove the bulkhead. And I must say that this step right here definitely was the first step in really opening the van up, and I think you can see that from this. Whenever he pulled that bulkhead away, the van instantly looked huge. It was already big, but then it became this massive space that he could make his own. Now, along the way though, there were a few things that he started to notice whenever he removed this. The bulkhead is in two parts, so he still had to remove that top section that you're seeing at the top there, but also he noticed that there were a few areas that the bulkhead had secured to that were pretty much trashed, so he was going to have to replace those. At the bottom of the bulkhead area, whenever he's pulling it out of this channel, you'll notice that it attaches to the floor, and the floor was in pretty bad shape. In fact, this is him inspecting some of those bulkhead areas. This was completely busted loose. This area is the channel right below where it was, and as you can see, there's a lot of rust. This is a theme that you will see continuing as he goes forward, but this particular van had been used as a heating and air truck and then also as a barbecue truck, so somewhere along the way some stuff got spilled under that flooring. Now there was this light that was actually already in the van, so he checked it out to see if it would still work, and after giving it a little bit of power, in fact it did turn on, and this is something that I might be using in the future on my van, so we went ahead and took it off because he's going to be changing up the entire inside, and you'll see bits and pieces of that kind of as we go. Now this is him removing the rest of that bulkhead. Again, this came in two parts. He had to go through the same process of grinding it and then popping each one of those rivets. But in the end, this really did make a huge difference on starting off the space. And I know that it got him super excited about the progress that was going to be made in the future. It was really neat to see this process because I had contended with some different vans whenever I was first looking at my van, and a couple of them did have bulkheads, and now after seeing this I'm pretty happy that I didn't end up with one because this ended up being just kind of a pain.
Alright, we're going to take this floor out right here. It's riveted in. So we're going to get some stuff out of the way so we can take it out. as you can see, there's a lot of rust in this area, some other areas. We're going to be sanding this down. I've already started sanding some. Using sander and a wire brush to get that paint off, and sand it down to the bare metal so we can get it all cleaned up. But there's a lot of rust, so we're going to have to take it down. Up here at the front, right in this area where this piece of metal joins this piece of metal, it is rotted away, some of the metal, so we're going to be later on adding a strip of metal down through here and welding it in to tie these two back together. We are doing sanding and we got particles flying in there. We need to protect ourselves from breathing this stuff in, so we've got a mask. And of course we've got our safety glasses. That will help us keep from breathing this stuff in and keep from getting anything in our eyes. Now the stuff we're sanding off will be flying and there are some sparks, so we want to protect our eyes and also our lungs. Here are some tools that I use to do the job that we're doing on this van. One is when we took that bulkhead down, we used a grinding wheel to grind off the rivet top so we could take the knock them through and get the rivets out of the way. This is a 4.5 inch one. They make bigger ones. This one works for me. It goes on a grinding motor. I've got the guard off right now because of the type of pad I'm having to use on here, but don't take your guard off unless you have to, because that's part of your safety. Now one thing that can happen is if you accidentally slip, you can actually hurt yourself. I've already got a place that it didn't cut me, it actually ate away the skin and got to where it's bleeding, so I had to doctor it up and everything. This has already got one on here, but I'll show you one. This is a sanding pad that's made for that grinder. They make different sanding pads for different things. Because I have the grinder, it works great. You'll see the brand new one. Here's the used one. If you'll notice, there's a bevel here. Well, this one's straight. That's because of all the time you're using it, you have to hold it at an angle. Also, I have two different type of wire wheels. This is more of a straight up and down one, and this is more of an angle to go kind of like this. Well, this one goes like this. Now these all do their job, but these will clean off the light stuff, like knock loose the light paint and stuff like that that's already pulled up. So here's a fairly well cleaner area. It's got some debris on it because I haven't swept it or vacuumed it. Here's a little bit left done, and there's the worst part, which it looks real rusty, but by the time I get done, I go all the way down to the clean metal that I can get down to, and that's when that's what happened before we put the rust in here to keep the rust from spreading. Okay, folks, welcome back. I've already started. I've done part of the priming, done the rust things. I didn't see any sense in showing y'all how to do it all. I mean, it's just basically spray cans that you spray this stuff on with. It's a cheap man's version of doing it. I think it'll be all right. It's by Roast-O-Lim, and they're pretty good brand. Anyway, I'll show you what the black on here is. The rust inhibitor or rehibitor or whatever they want to call it. It's supposed to help keep the rust from spreading. They're supposed to stop the rust. And the gray look is the primer. Now we're in the process of spraying it down, but like I said, I didn't think that you had to have that, you know, somebody just sitting there spraying. You didn't need to see that. Cleaning process took quite a bit. We got all the rust off of it. I did find out something, that if you have rust on your vehicle and you clean it all up, you need to clean it well and cover it as soon as possible. I had to go back over some spots because last time I did this was about a week ago, and the weather changed and we had cool and warm weather, and therefore the rust that I had knocked off the top coat had to be re-knocked off because it had started showing rust again. Hello again. Well, you can see I started putting down the boards to support the floor over here. I've had to cut some bevels on them so they'll set in the channels the way I want to. Over here where the concrete blocks, they're holding down the boards, I've glued them with some special glue. We're trying not to use any bolts and nuts on them if we can. This is Gorilla glue. It's supposed to be a real good glue and everything, heavy duty. If this works all right, then what we'll do, we'll go ahead and do the whole band with it. Just got random cut boards here. Most of them are 8 foot long, and once I get these set in there and these set in, then I'll go up there and finish up letting all that. And then we'll take some boards and go across in between these two for extra support. We tried to use some glue on here, and it works, except the boards, they come straight until you cut them loose from the bundle. Then they start trying to move around, you know, like bows, stuff like that. So I was watching somebody else's YouTube thing, and they said that they had to use screws on theirs to get the base boards down for your insulation to go between everything. So that's what I'm ending up doing. But if you look right here, they're counterset screws. So these things, they automatically, here's what they look like whenever you pick them up out of the box. This part here is your drill that drills through your metal and through your wood, and this part, second part that kind of sticks out, I couldn't figure out what they're for. Well, that kind of opens up the wood a little bit more, so whenever you get to the top, it actually lets it kind of sink down in there. Now I've cut a little bevel along here so it will fit right up against one of these channels. So let me see if I can get up in here and get this where you can see it. First of all, I position this with the bevel to this other bevel. Now, you have to be kind of careful. Sometimes they try to raise up on you when you hit that metal. So I put my foot on there for support. I go a couple 3 inches from the end so it doesn't bust out on me. There's one. Now I have noticed that sometimes they're a little harder going in some places than the others. But what they suggest is that you use a hammer drill on this too, and that way, sometimes I've got a hammer drill, but I'm not having to use it. It's warm out here today. I've got to cut some more to the right length, and I'll show you what I'm using to cut them with. To make my bevel, I'm taking my saw. If you look at that blade, it's angled. I've got the angle that I thought I needed. It seems to work pretty good. And then just to cut it, the end just straight off, see how squared that is? I just cut off that excess with this chop saw. Now this has a safety guard on it to keep you from getting your hand in there, hopefully. This one has a safety guard on it too, but there's certain things you can't use it on. So for what I'm doing, it makes it hard for me to use it on there because of the way the guard is and everything. Here's what it looks like so far. I'm just cutting it in pieces so I can fit it in because it's going to be covered up. After I get through with it, I'll tape it together so there won't be no air gaps in it anywhere. And then we'll put the, we'll later cut everything to fit according to the pattern. So here it is right here. Here's the foam I'm using. I'm using 1/2 inch. It's a 4.73 R value in the floor. That doesn't sound like much, I know that, but I could have just left it without any R value in it, but I figured it might be a little bit warmer in there during the colder days. I'm not planning on doing much traveling during the colder days. But here it is. We're putting it in the channels, and we had to do some adjustments on it so it's not quite straight all the way, so we have to put it in pieces. I tried 8-foot pieces, and that was a little bit too long for me to handle by myself. So I decided I better cut it in sections, because I'm also going to put tape over the seams and all that and get it all together. Here's the insulation and the wood down here we're going to be mounting our floor to. You know, yesterday I put the flooring in and got it all screwed down and everything. Went in there and countersunk everything. And today we're looking at putting in the flooring on the floor. So here we go. Y'all ready for this? This is kind of a grayish looking tile. It's not really, it's a laminate that I'm putting in. It's pretty well snap and play. You know, you just put it in there and snap and let it go. So there it is. I'm not through with it, of course. I'm almost halfway there. I've got to get another box out. Now it's going to take 3 boxes, even though it won't be a full 3 boxes. I'll have to buy 3 boxes total. I've got 2 so far. I just want to see how far I'd get before I got the 3rd box. But anyway, here we are, and this is what it looks like with the flooring down. Like I said, we still got to clean up all the walls and all that. And make sure your floor is good and clean before you put this stuff down. So I always try to wipe away, just in case something got in here where I wasn't at. And sweep it away. That way you don't have no particles underneath this thing. I don't think it hurt if you got just a little bit, but don't take no chances. All you gotta do is pull this stuff in. And what I've been doing is lining up this edge here, getting it pretty close. And then once I get that in there, gotta pick up the other side and push it into place. If it don't look right, just push a little bit more. That's basically it. Like I said, just like right on this area here, like about 6 pieces. One little piece right here, and I couldn't find any scraps that I could use because everything that I used had the wrong side on it. I had one I thought it would work, but it's about an inch too short, too narrow, so it would have left some open. So I decided I just cut off one because I've got to cut. Every time I cut a little piece off, I had to cut one, so I'll cut one to fit that. I went and got the rest of the flooring and went and cut it. It took 6 more pieces. I wasn't sure how much it'd take, but there's 12 pieces per box. So we got in 30 pieces here, and then some pieces left over. I say 30 pieces, 30 full ones that have been cut into fit and everything. There it is, and you can see the sun's hitting, kind of shining off it and everything. The edge here, it's not complete. It's still got some things to do with it. Same with that edge up there at the door and the edge in front. We're going to put some, I think I want to use some aluminum channel right here. And same way up there at that doorway, and same way up there. And that'll kind of lock everything into place. Now this is supposed to be a floor that's able to move around. I don't know how that's going to work, but we'll see. Hopefully, I've got it pretty close and everything, but hopefully it'll be all right. Hey there, how y'all doing? Just got something to do. I think, I'm not sure who dropped it off. Somebody dropped it off, order for the van. I'm gonna let y'all kind of see it here in just a second. So, you ready for this? This is for helping out in the van. There it is, Max Air, a Max Fan Deluxe. It says no rain sensor required, because it's supposed to, when you fold it up, it's supposed to be able to keep the rain out and everything, or you know, when you get it opened up and everything. So we'll be installing that. See right here, it says it's got a remote control on it. This is 2-inch insulation. I was gonna put an inch insulation because I thought I needed more room for wire, but after I got looking at it and everything, I get this stuff. It's a real dense insulation, I guess what you call it. Anyway, it works. It's pretty thick and it's not heavy, but it's heavy for 2 inches of just foam. It seems like it's heavy, but it's fine. I'm having to put it in sections, and then I'll fill in all the in between after I get all my wires run. If you notice I hadn't got anything down here yet, that's because I hadn't even started on that. I've got to figure that one out, because I've got this little piece here I've got to deal with. It's part of the van. It's part that holds the door, helps hold the door, the track of the door and all that. So I've got to deal with that. But it also is part of the bracing for this. I've got this side done. This side just started on. Any place you see little cracks like right here, I had to actually cut this because this curves, and this stuff doesn't like to stick if it doesn't curve. I found that out on a couple pieces over here, so I started cutting it. If I'd have tore that out over here, then it would have mean that I would have had to scrape off a bunch of old stuff that stuck to it, and I didn't want to waste that installation. So I think, well, it's going to be covered. It's still going to be doing its job. It's just not going to be stuck in the very middle. Give it a little bit of air gap. So it might even give more R value. Now this is R value 10 because it's a 2-inch. Now a lot of people, you'll see them taking, they'll put the stick-on spike looking things. They stick on, then you push that against there. They've got an adhesive back, and they'll stick them to the wall in here. And then they'll push their insulation up against it, and then they'll have a little keeper that holds that insulation in place. Well, on foam insulation, you can do that, or you can do something like, I used to be a mechanic, and to get gaskets and things like that to hold, and interior and headliner and things like that, use a foam spray. It's a spray that's made for foam. You just got to get one that will not ruin the foam, and you spray it. And then you spray the other side, you spray the wall, then you spray one side of the foam that you want to stick it to. You let it set for 2.5 to 3 minutes. That's as per direction on this particular product. And then you stick it to it, get it in place, and make sure it's good, and then press it in. This stuff here I got is made by the company that makes the Gorilla duct tape and stuff like that. It does say on here that it will work on foam. Now it says not to use it on styrofoam.
Now these clips are all taken a little bit after that. As you can see, he started working on the structure. He's also continued with insulating and actually added some looser insulation around the edges of the purple foam board that he used, and then he completed it with the flooring foam that he used also. Those walls are pretty sturdy now, and they don't make any kind of weird rattling when he goes down the road, that's for sure. This is some of the wiring that he has put in place. They're going to be running plugs and then also switches kind of throughout the van, so he went ahead and did this in advance. And he also set up the van for shore power, so if they're staying off grid, that's great, but if they're staying in a state park, they can plug in. And now you see that he is framing up the wheel wells. This is going to give additional support to the underbed structures, and then also allow for him to continue with the building of the walls whenever he is ready. And this is kind of what that looks like in the progress. And again, lots and lots of different things have gone into this for Dad to get to the place that he is, and I'm really excited to see what he comes up with in the future. Here you get a little bit closer look at some of those structural beams where he will be attaching the walls very soon. And last but not least, this is what the framing is starting to look like. As you can see, he has definitely had his hands full as he's been working on this, but there are a few other things that will be coming in the future. And because this is my last check-in to base camp for quite some time, I definitely want to add this to the video also, so you can see what we can expect in the future from the build. And this is actually something kind of fun. I am so excited about this part.
We just got a package. Wonder what it is. I have no idea, guys. Rainy days are good for a lot of things, but package delivery is not one of them. The porch is wet, so I'm gonna go meet this guy outside. Okay, guys, well, this is what was in the truck. And you might recognize a familiar name. Good old Danchel Outdoor. That's right, we have another package from Danchel, and today, this package right here is about to change a lot of things for my parents' van.
Now, one of the things I personally have learned traveling in a van the way that I do is that my outdoor space is just as important as my indoor space. So whenever I installed my Danchel awning, I loved it. I can pull it out, I can have this nice shade structure, and it takes my tiny little 30 square feet to this whole nother level of fun because now I have more room. So I wanted mom and dad to have a Danchel also because I love mine so much. So this is going to be going on their van. Okay, now that we've seen what's already physically in the van, what's coming to the van, let me also show you some of the working pieces that they have picked up along the way that they will be using but don't have a home in the space just yet. These are some cool things, guys, that I think are going to kind of pique your interest a little bit also. These guys are things that you're going to want to pay attention to because you could use these in pretty much any van. We're going to start off with these lights right here. Dad found these and they're LED lights that he's going to be mounting inside. Now, he did show me one of these in kind of a test because they do have this open wiring on the end here, and these things are much brighter than puck lights. So he's going to be able to use these to kind of light the space, and it's going to be more of a true white. So I'm very excited to see him install these very soon. Something else that I think is pretty neat that I don't have on my van is actually shore power. And because Dad went ahead and installed shore power, when he goes to state parks, he'll be able to plug in. And they have this little adapter piece which allows you to plug into 15 or 30 amps using this cord right here. So he's going to have the ability to stop off just about anywhere, plug in, and take away from the burden that he's putting on his solar system. Now, each person is designed to travel a bit different, and each person has to decide how their travel style will work along the way. So when my parents were asking themselves the very real questions of where do we plan on camping, how long are we going to be gone, how do we want to power our rig, they decided that they wanted to give themselves as many options as they possibly could so that they could stay in the backcountry and enjoy that, but also have those modern amenities of a state park. So that's why they decided to go ahead and go with shore power. So I think that that's great. With me, I don't stay at state parks enough for that to be something that I really needed to do, but I do see the advantages of having it. For example, there was one particular day when I was camping with Nomadic Nanny and our power was completely drained because we had no solar, and we ended up staying at a spot where we could plug in the next day just so we could amp everything back up, and that was super handy. If I would have just been able to plug in from the beginning, that wouldn't have been a problem. So it does get you thinking a little bit, just a little. And the last big decision that they made was what kind of potty that they were going to put in their van, and they decided that they liked the one that I had, so they got kind of the upgraded version of it. This is the Thetford Porta Potty 365, and it hasn't been used, that's why it's on the counter. Just saying, just saying. So this has a little lid that lifts straight up, and as you see, there's a little hole that everything goes into. Well, whenever you're on the porta potty, you open up this, and that opens up the hole so the waste can go through. And then when you're finished, this is actually the flusher. So let's try to open the lid and show you guys what this looks like. So it just opens, and then it pumps. And then whenever it pumps, you see the water goes through and then can fall to the bottom. Now this one does have a larger bottom tank on it than mine does because there's two people, so you need a little bit more of a tank. Also, it has an indicator on here to tell you whenever it is full and needing to be dumped. So that is a nice upgraded feature that mine does not have. So as you can see, they're tackling the big things. How are we going to have power? They're going to go with solar. They already have started their electrical lines. How are they going to be able to use the restroom? They found the porta potty that they think best suits their needs. Now this is a chemical style toilet. It does have to be dumped. So that's something to think about if you guys are looking for a toilet option also, because some people just don't like to have a toilet that they have to dump at an RV dump station. I personally don't mind because it makes life a lot easier, and also it's actually a lot more sanitary than you would think. After you do that initial dump, you figure it out and it's not so hard, and that's why I suggested a chemical toilet for my parents also. But in addition to that, If you'll recall, whenever I talked about why I selected my toilet, it was because when the world shut down, they were restricting people who could stay at certain campgrounds because the facilities were closed. They required you to have a flushable toilet. So I never want my parents to go without, so I definitely suggested that, and you know, they took the idea and ran with it and found the version that worked best for them. Now, a couple of other things that they're addressing. They figured out how they want to light their van. They're actually going to be running their electrical system with switches so that they can turn on and off their lights, and I absolutely think that that's a smart idea in that space. They decided that they wanted insulation, so they put it in, and then they found the best way to insulate it, not only for the weather that they're going to, but also for the rattles of an older van. If you tap on the walls of that thing now, it doesn't make that thunderous boom of a cavity because they've insulated it super, super well. Of course, while they have a lot of work to do still, they're coming up with solutions for many of the common things that you and I look for in a van. For example, they have something really, really cool that they're planning for their cabinets that I think is super smart. And then also, they decided that they wanted to do their bed situation a little bit different. So the next time I circle back to base camp, I'll show you what that's going to look like also. I've said it once, I'll say it again, there is no one way to van life. Whether you are in a tiny NV200 or a massive Dodge Ram Sprinter, there is no one thing that is going to work for every single person based on their vehicle, their wants, their needs, and also their goals on the road. So I hope today's video was handy to you guys. Now, I always enjoy sharing my adventures in the NV200 here, and I hope that soon my dad will be sharing his adventures in his Dodge Ram Sprinter after it's complete. But if you have enjoyed coming along to do this little progress report with me, then make sure that you leave a thumbs up. Tell me what you think so far of the things that they're doing in the comments, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!